call them upon now to give us a short presentation.
Hi everyone, my name is Manal,
And my name is Mariam.
and we're here today representing Islamic Relief at Queen's University. Before we begin, here's an overview of what we will be discussing tonight. So what is Islamic Relief? So Islamic Relief at Queen's University, or IRQU, is a student-led club dedicated to raising awareness and mobilizing support for humanitarian causes around the world. As part of the wider Islamic Relief Canada network, our club organizes events, fundraisers, and educational initiatives to help alleviate poverty, respond to emergencies, and promote sustainable development.
Islamic Relief's global strategy connects our life-saving and life-changing programming with work to achieve positive change for vulnerable people, as inspired by
Sorry guys, give me 1 second.
that every person's life, dignity, and rights are sacred. Our strategy focuses on
Charity holds a special place in Islam. Zakat, or obligatory charity, and sadaqah, or voluntary charity, are fundamental acts of worship and compassion. Islam teaches us the importance of giving to those in need, with a strong emphasis on supporting the poor, orphans, and the vulnerable. Islam also upholds the dignity and rights of women. From its earliest teachings, Islam emphasized the importance of education, financial independence, and social contribution for women. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, advocated for the fair treatment and empowerment of women, recognizing their crucial roles in family, society, and acts of worship, including charity. Muslim women have historically been leaders in charitable efforts, contributing to their communities and uplifting those in need.
During Ramadan, acts have even greater significance. Muslims are encouraged to increase their generosity as the rewards for good deeds are multiplied during this holy month. Giving during Ramadan is more than just providing support. It's a way to purify our wealth and strengthen our connection to God. At IRQU, we aim to embody the spirit of Ramadan by
Risks of gender-based violence by supporting vulnerable communities. Through these efforts, Islamic Relief fosters systemic change, ensuring justice, dignity, and protection for women and girls.
So what makes us unique is our faith-based approach and culturally informed approach. We recognize that seeking help can be challenging, especially for women from Muslim and other marginalized backgrounds. Concerns about stigma or feeling misunderstood by mainstream services can create additional barriers. That's why building trust is at the heart of what we do. We strive to create safe, culturally respectful spaces where women feel supported and understood. By integrating Islamic principles of justice, dignity, and compassion, we aim to empower individuals from diverse backgrounds, particularly Muslim women, to seek help without fear or hesitation.
One of the issues IRQU has been working to address is food insecurity and homelessness in the GTA and Kingston. Of the 343 million people who are extremely hungry in the world right now, nearly 60% are women and girls. In nearly 2/3 of countries, women are more likely than men to report food insecurity. In Kingston, 41% of people experiencing homelessness were women. This year, Kingston declared a state of emergency for food insecurity, as 1 in 3 families cannot afford to pay for food, making this issue incredibly relevant.
So what can we do to help? In addition to raising awareness, we aim to mobilize resources by launching fundraising initiatives to support Islamic Relief's gender justice programs and local shelters, aiding women and children experiencing homelessness or abuse. A key initiative we want to bring to Kingston is Rise to Relief, a campaign designed to unite communities in support of humanitarian causes. We successfully ran this initiative in downtown Toronto this past February, giving out 600 packages to people experiencing homelessness. These packages included blankets, socks, a warm meal, hats, mitts, hygiene wipes, and menstrual products for women. We would love to replicate this in Kingston for coming years. To make this a reality, we'll need the support in several areas, including raising awareness, mobilizing resources, securing sponsorships, and building meaningful connections. Bringing Rise to Relief to Kingston would not only help us tackle pressing issues like food insecurity and gender-based violence, but also create opportunities for students and the broader community to come together in service of a greater cause.
advocating for the university to support community initiatives addressing food insecurity and homelessness, particularly as Kingston faces a state of emergency for food insecurity, can create lasting impact. Additionally, working with university leaders to promote events such as this one and other Islamic relief events on campus can help us to make a lasting impact. Together as students and as a university, we can contribute to creating a more compassionate and just society, both here in Kingston and around the world. Let's take action to support women and girls, fight food insecurity, and champion sustainable development. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much again on behalf of the AMS Assembly. If we could get another round of applause for them, guys. They did an amazing job. Right, we are now going to be moving on to the executive reports. President Rocky first.
Hello, everybody. Thank you all for being here. Firstly, thank you, Islamic Relief, for being here. I'm not sure that. Thank you. It was a great presentation. It's great to see everybody again, albeit for our last normal assembly of the season. I know we'll see ourselves once more at General Assembly, but it's the last time we'll meet as a formal assembly. So yeah, I know it's a bittersweet moment. No better place to spend a Monday. And thanks for the great year, everybody, through all the ups and downs. I know it's not an easy time on campus. I've been working really closely with some FACSOC presidents to try and support students as much as we can throughout these times. As always, if there's anything we can do to help, please do try to get in contact. My number is always available. Just ask or just shoot me an email. As for my team, we're starting to shift gears. I know we're starting to slow down the work for the most part and starting to focus more on transition and the new budgeting process, which I'm sure VPOP's Chowdhury can elaborate on. Very exciting. As per the next coming weeks, I know Senate is later this week with enrollment targets. Maybe our Senate caucus chair will speak to that. And just in the time being, I'm focusing on preparing for General Assembly as it's a huge logistical undertaking and there is a lot of policy to still go through there. And as always, if there's anything I can do to support you or the members you represent, please do reach out. I'm always happy to work with you. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, Owen. All right, we're gonna have.
I don't think so. Do I actually have a presentation?
Oh wait, I lied. Not presentation. Little speech.
Fantastic. Hi everyone, nice to see you all. Not too much to report on since we last met on March 3rd, but a couple of things I'll highlight is the bus it passed. Thank you everyone for your help in supporting circulating information on the special referendum. It was really well done, so a huge thank you to the Internal Affairs Office and the Marketing Office as well for helping out with Busset. So a big chunk of the work has been accomplished, but there's still a couple more steps to figure out as well. As Owen mentioned, we are into transitioning, so operations are winding down. Some services still remain busy, but others are getting ready to wrap things up. Maybe some blowout sales, giveaways, making things exciting for the year end. Outside of that, we are also budgeting again. This really doesn't affect the timing of when commissioner budgets are brought forward to Assembly or the special general meeting or the annual general meeting coming up, so all that process will be the same. But really it's a twofold reason for the internal change. One, which is load management, because we hire in the summer now for all of our staff positions. This provides a bit of flexibility to all our senior managers. And second, our teams are at their peak of knowledge right now as well, sitting on almost about a year's worth of information given the incoming transition as well. So it's really about capitalizing on their knowledge and setting up the next team for success.
Thank you, VP Chowdhury. Now going to be hearing from Tina Sande.
Hello. Okay, so I'm going to keep my report pretty short. A lot has been happening since last time I saw you. As you all know, I do not have a clubs commissioner, so I've also been acting clubs commissioner. It's been super fun. Some of the updates, I've been working to manage the team. I've been meeting with them weekly. As a result of some of the concerns that have come up this year, we've done a really intensive look into the clubs commission and what needs to be changed. We had a club caucus last week where we got feedback from our clubs, and we're using that feedback to structure some of the policy updates that we make, as well as the structure updates that we make as well. So there is a clubs restructure proposal that's coming here. It's not necessarily for your approval, but it's just for you to receive it, because it will be going to the board of directors as an urgent need. The next thing that's coming up is, we're so lucky, guys, because we get 2 snap elections during our terms. The next federal election is April 28th, so unfortunately most of our students will be gone. I have 2 days left in my term, and so a lot of our focus, Jordan and I, would be working on getting online and more social media facing campaigns going in preparation for the elections. And then we also have all the policy updates. So Janet has been working very diligently on the equity, I wouldn't call it a policy, but an equity commitment for the AMS. And Rowan has been working on our event sanctioning policy. Hopefully both of these things are ready for you in April's assembly, but if they're not, they will be transitioned onto the incoming team to pass. But we really wanted to ensure that we set the foundation for these policies with the information that we have. And then the next part is marketing, branding, and referendum. So as you all know, the last time we were here, we did pass and ask for your approval on the public, we did ask and ask for your approval on the website questions. We got about 10% of students to respond to those questions. We got some really good feedback and some instructions on how to prioritize our advocacy for the next year. We also had a really good turnout with busing. Clearly our students love access to affordable transit, so that was really exciting. VP Chaudhry and I were marketing directors for a couple of days, but it was definitely a lot of fun getting to run around and push that as well. And that's basically it for me. If you want to chat about anything, let me know and I can pass them on to my incoming, because I'm retired in a couple weeks. Okay, bye guys.
Thank you, VP Osande. We are now going to be hearing from, these slides work, the ex officios. Starting off, we're going to be hearing a report from Chairperson Garisha.
Hi everyone, not too much to report on since the last time we gathered. Just a couple of things have passed forward since the last time we met. Goodness, I don't like these microphones. From the Personnel Committee, the harassment and discrimination policy has passed, and the HR office is working hard on the progressive discipline policy. From the strategic planning side, version 3 of the strat plan went through to the committee today, which is very, very exciting. It's looking really fantastic. I know a few of us in this room sit on that committee, and it's looking really good and super exciting for the organization. Board hiring is still on AMS Apply, so if you are interested in holding a board position, please go on to AMS Apply and do that. I know you're all interested in governance, hence why you're in this room, so why not try corporate governance for a change? As for me, I think that's about it, but if you have any other questions or concerns or want to ask about hiring, please feel free to send those my way.
Thank you, Garisha. We're now going to be hearing from Lucas Alog, Senate Caucus Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Senate has not met since last assembly, but Board and Senate had their joint retreat, what was that, 2 weeks ago? 2 weekends ago? It was fairly productive. We had some good conversations, and we're really narrowing in kind of how we want to deal with the future, both in the short term where it comes to the financial issues and trying to figure out our new funding in the current landscape, but also kind of long term with reference to the bicentennial vision and where we want this university going. A big topic of conversation was infrastructure. We're recognizing a lot of our very pretty limestone buildings that have been around forever don't hold up too well and tend to flood or get really hot or just be impossible to upgrade. So we are definitely looking at that, probably a revisit to the campus long-term plan in the next couple of years. Board and Senate were very much in agreement on that, as well as there was a lot of realization that we have a lot of crazy ideas, but also a ridiculous amount of bureaucracy in terms of students taking programs not in the precise plan prescribed to them by the powers that may be. So there's a lot of talk, and my successor will be needing to go through a lot of these things in the next couple of years and looking at ways that we can tear down the red tape, get students able to take courses that they want outside their department, maybe even outside their faculty, and really trying to better distribute where our students are in our courses so we can run proper courses, have proper departments, and have the staff to handle that. The last thing that brought up was that I'll mention is we're kind of caught in a chicken and an egg scenario here. We have lots of crazy ideas to bring in more money, provide better student experience, make the university better, and for the long term and for the short term for everybody in our community. But all those ideas to make money and to grow require money in the first place, which is hard to get because that means we're taking it out of the operating fund. We don't necessarily have endowments to spare from that. So there's some different ideas. Many board members are very much against the university taking on any sort of debt. We have never in our 180 years of existence. So that is a challenge that we have yet to find a solution with. And I'm hoping that Senate and board continue to have these conversations throughout the next year and are able to come to a better conclusion. Last thing I'll note is there's an awful lot of major modifications and program suspensions in the upcoming Senate agenda. I do highly suggest you check in with your senators and read over that agenda as it's coming up Thursday. Most of these items should have gone through faculty boards, but if there is a program that we're getting rid of or changing, I need to know about it because, well, I'm in engineering and you probably don't want me consulting on a commerce course because I was taught by my frack right over there to just get rid of all of them. So let me know. On that, I will pass it off to whoever's next.
Thank you, Senate Caucus Chair. We're now going to be hearing from undergraduate trustee.
Hi, I hope everyone's doing well. So I have a few quick updates to share with you all. First of all, we had our third Tea with the Trustees event on March 2nd. Just so everyone knows, this is like a small discussion time that we have to invite students or members from the community to come in and talk to us. So we will be having another one before our May meeting, so please, if you want to say something to the student trustees, please do come and use that time to talk to us. The next update was we had our open session meeting on March 7th, and in this meeting, well, you can, as always, find the agenda and associated materials on our university governance portal, but just a quick bullet points of some of the things that we did in that meeting. We passed a few motions like renewing a few of the research centers at Queen's, and we approved the establishment of the new research center for radiation impact on materials. And we also voted to rename the Department of Mining Engineering and make a small amendment to the Indigenous Gathering Space name as well. And then we approved the tuition and residence fees for the upcoming year. And then as well in our university culture meeting, we essentially reviewed a few of the annual reports that we get. We get a harassment and discrimination intake report, the ombudsperson annual report, which basically highlights what resources are available to students and faculty and such. And in that meeting, it's a closed session meeting, but what I can say about it is we had a big discussion on how the university can continue to assess campus culture and get feedback from students and such. Yeah, so to end off, the next meeting is going to be in May, and that's my last meeting in this role. So transitioning to the next undergrad trustee. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Reem. Fortunately, we are not going to be able to hear from our rector today. She does send her regrets. We will now be listening to statements by students. I note any AMS student can make a statement, and they are limited to 5 minutes. To start off, we are going to get a statement from Emma Capstick, our CGO on the Committee on External Alignment.
I think we met twice, maybe since the last assembly. We do have a motion coming forward later on to kind of discuss about just the committee members mostly. We initially wanted to bring the report to this assembly, but we are going to push it to April just to give us a little bit more time, but there's not too much to report. I can also talk about Assembly Policy Review Committee. We met, I think, also twice since last assembly. Lots of good discussions about ex officios and commissioners, as well as ratification. So lots of fun, and then we'll meet tomorrow to discuss more. So yeah.
Do you want to just start off with the next report as well?
I talked about both of them.
Apologies. Right. We now have a report from the Assembly Review Committee from our president.
Yeah, the General Assembly Review Committee has been going well. I'd say our conversation of this most recent committee was more productive and more on topic than previous committees, which is good. I know we talk about a lot of things in that committee, but it's helping us move towards better direction as to maybe not overhaul the whole policy this year, but at least establish a clear direction of what we want to do with General Assembly as a whole. As the more research we do, we see it's a bit of an odd spot right now in our governance structure, but we're really confident we'll be able to make a pretty strong recommendation. Oh, this mic really pops. And hopefully present that at General Assembly to get a bit more feedback before we make a recommendation to next year's team on what they can do with this forum. That's all.
Thank you. We now have a report from the Secretariat, Secretary Garbidian.
Awesome, thank you. I'll try to keep this short. So just to note, volunteer awards were open with the regular award cycle, but unfortunately we didn't get any nominations. So if you know of any AMS volunteers that have really impressed you or have done some amazing work within the AMS, all of you have interacted with the AMS in different capacities, please go to the, I think it's the Campus Affairs Awards Forum, and make a nomination for these awards. The application will remain open, I think, until either Friday or Saturday night. Rowan and I will figure this out. But just make those nominations. The other note I wanted to highlight for everybody is that judicial committee applications, as well as applications for Speaker of the AMS Assembly, are open. So if you are interested in having a position within the Internal Affairs Office next year, please apply. They will be open until tomorrow night. So that's JCOM Chair, and the Speaker of Assembly. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other statements, or are there any other students who are looking to make statements? All right, seeing as there are none, we'll now move on to the next item on our agenda, which is the questioning period. Are there any students looking to ask questions to the General Assembly? Seeing as there are none, we will now be moving on to the next topic of discussion, new business. Motion to Council of Order, moved by Secretary Garbidian and seconded by President Rocky. And it is that AMS Assembly approve the establishment of the Council of Order and the second reading of the proposed constitutional terms as shown in Appendix A. Secretary Garbidian, do you want to speak on it?
I'll just speak to this one in the next two motions. It's the same language as what went through Assembly last time, so if you have any questions, I'm happy to take them. But otherwise, to make a constitutional change, it needs 2 readings. So if this is approved today, it will be part of the Constitution.
All right, all those in favor of motion 2, please raise your placard. All those opposed? All those who choose to abstain? This motion passes. All right, motion 3. Secretariat accountability, moved by Secretary Garbidian, seconded by President Rocky. And it is that AMS Assembly approve the second reading of the proposed constitutional additions pertaining to the accountability of the Secretariat as shown in Appendix B. Is there anyone who has questions or looking to speak on this topic? Seeing as there are none, we will be voting on this motion. All those in favor of motion 3, please raise your placard. All those opposed? All those who choose to abstain, this motion clearly passes. All right, motion 4, honorary titles, moved by Secretary Garbidian, seconded by President Frocky. It is that AMS Assembly approve the secondary reading of the honorary life membership and honorary president constitutional additions as shown in Appendix C. Any questions in regards to motion 4? Comments? No? All right. We're voting on motion 4. All those in favor, please raise your placard. All those who choose to abstain, all those opposed, this motion clearly passes. Right, motion 5, ORT budget, moved by Ali Haider and seconded by Ruth Masande, and it is that AMS Assembly approve the orientation roundtable budget as presented. I do believe they have a presentation for us now.
Hey everyone, I hope you're all well today. Is the presentation linked here? Okay, so last assembly we had the privilege of presenting our draft budget for what we wanted to achieve for orientation. So we made a few slight changes and I wanted to just document this and make sure you guys all understand. So I'm just gonna go through it quickly as many of them are the same thing. Okay, so I went over the financial objectives last assembly, so I'm not going to touch on it too much, but we really want to make sure that we're sustainable and we're using all the funds we have access to give students the best experience possible. And we really made sure to base our numbers off of what was actually spent last year, as well as the draft budget that they created last year as well. So in terms of revenue, we upped this a little bit in terms of allocation from assembly by about $2,000. And working with the accountant Tom, we saw that this was a 2% increase from last year, which is in line with inflations. And we also set the same sponsorship goal and increased our event revenue from student fees. So in total, the cost per student, estimating at around 6,000 students for the upcoming orientation cycle, will be around $40 per student for the ORT fee, which is $45 cheaper than last year due to the removal of the concert, which will hopefully make students more accessible for orientation. Next up, we have ORT expenses, which is similar from last year, and a lot of this is spent on salaries and also making sure that we have the wages for all the ORT employees, which are set out by the AMS years prior. And finally, in terms of faculty expenses, we have a slight increase from last year due to concerns with inflation. There was also a lot of concerns with room bookings that happened last year, and a lot of these were last-minute room bookings that occurred. So we're going to try and make sure that we can mitigate this as much as possible, but we also want to make sure that in cases of emergency, we have the funds available to make sure that we can address these issues. And finally, in terms of training, it's going to be relatively similar to last year at around $23,000, and a lot of this is going to be for room rentals and for food that exists at the training sessions. So I believe that Sylvie was able to send out the finalized budget for all of you through email, so hopefully you guys can have a chance to look at that and understand some of the aspects of what we're looking for. So I'll give you guys a few minutes to look over that. Before we go into voting procedure. So the question was about fundraising expenses. So essentially what happened last year is they allocated a lot of that money towards, so the jurisdiction for another part of the budget, which was specifically for uniforms, that included kit bags and water bottles, but we separated it this year and we put all the money into that section just to make it easier for us to understand where the money's going.
All right, seeing as there are no other questions, we will now be voting on motion 5, ORT budget. All those in favor of motion 5, please raise your placard. All those opposed? All those who choose to abstain? This motion passes. motion 6, case officer. Moved by Secretary Garvidian, seconded by President Rocky, and it is that AMS Assembly appoint Andrew Anderson as a case officer under the Judicial Affairs Office. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this topic at this time?
So I just have a question.
Yeah. All right, we're going to be moving on to motion 6. Thank you for that correction. And it is that AMS Assembly re-ratify all AMS clubs approved for 2024-2025 and grant them the AMS ratified status for the 2025-2026 academic year. It was moved by VP Sunday and seconded by Sylvie Garvidian. Is there anyone looking to make a comment on motion 6?
No, it's okay. Keep the mic. Okay. Oh, for the live stream?
Yeah.
Okay, so again, as you all know, I have no clubs commissioner, which means I have been acting clubs commissioner, and I do not have the capacity to be candid to ratify all of these clubs plus my existing responsibilities. Another thing is, we played around with this a little bit for a couple weeks, and then when we went to clubs for the clubs caucus, and we asked them what they thought, I have never seen unanimous yeses from clubs before, or from students. Everybody in the room was like, yeah, that makes so much sense. Why do you guys make us do it every year? It doesn't make sense. So this is a change that we're making for this year, and it's a dual change because on one end, we don't necessarily have the capacity to do it, but on the other end, the feedback that we're getting from our clubs is that we kind of need to make an overhaul to our policy to ensure that it's actually sustainable and it's actually working for them instead of against them, and also against us because our capacity doesn't allow us to do that. So the new form of what we're going with for this year is that we will be going with data collection rather than data processing. So we will be taking club data and we'll be collecting all of the information we need from clubs to ensure that the commission continues to have up-to-date information for the clubs that we ratify. And then we will be going on a schedule of a randomizer. We're going to randomize clubs into 2 different batches. So every year, one cohort gets ratified and the other doesn't. And then it's going to be a 2-year cycle for ratification. We chose 2 years because the average life cycle of a club member is 2. And so we felt like that was an important thing to capture in how we do our processes. People are more likely to spend 2 years in a club than 3 or 4, if they're lucky, for sure, but the average is 2. And this way we also are allowing our clubs to actually meet us in the middle because we know that things are up in the air for us right now as well, and that should not hinder how they work or how they process things. So that's kind of the back thought process behind this. Any questions? Wait, that's not my job. Okay.
Anyone have any questions in regards to motion 6, club re-ratification? All right, seeing as there are no questions or comments, We're going to be moving into voting procedure. So all those in favor of motion 6, club re-ratification, please raise your placard. All those opposed? All those who choose to abstain? This motion passes. All right, we will now be moving on to motion 7. Case officer, moved by Secretary Garbidian and seconded by President Rocky. And it is that AMS Assembly appoint Andrew Anderson as a case officer under the Judicial Affairs Office.
Thank you. So the judicial case manager had resigned a couple of weeks ago, and given the resignation, the office has been unable to have case officers for certain cases where there's conflicts of interest. So the appointment of Andrew Anderson would allow us to address cases where the judicial disputes manager, the chief governance officer, or myself cannot directly address due to conflicts of interest. Andrew Anderson has worked in SOC and governance and has a lot of experience when it comes to policy and compliance. So I'm quite confident in his ability to take on the role as a case officer for the few complaints that we do have in the office. And of course, myself and the judicial district manager will offer him some training to make sure that he fully understands what the judicial process looks like, and he's able to take that on. Happy to take questions.
Alright, seeing as there are no questions, we will now be voting on motion 7, case officer. All those in favor of motion 7, please raise your placard. All those opposed? All those who choose to abstain? This motion passes. Right, motion 8, external alignment, moved by Secretary Garbidian, seconded by President Rocky. It is that the AMS Assembly appoint blank to the Committee on External Alignment. Secretary Garbidian? Oh.
So this motion kind of comes from the overall participation and attendance of the current voting members of the committee. So as chair, I act as like a neutral party to ensure that a thorough review of USA is complete and that we have been regularly meeting this semester. Although discussions have been productive, I've noted just a lack of engagement from voting members who are responsible for providing the stance of the committee. I believe it's a disservice to students to bring a report forward that does not represent the opinion of voting members on USA, given internal AMS advisors on the committee have a conflict of interest and members of the Internal Affairs Office just provide administrative support to facilitate a discussion. We can't continue with this committee as it stands. As a result, I'm hoping to appoint 2 new members to the committee so that we can bring a complete and comprehensive report to April Assembly. I'll be working with the GAM and Drayden to hopefully just catch these members up to speed on what was discussed previously. Happy to take questions. Yes, Silas?
What is the time to it?
As it stands, it's probably only going to be like 3 to 4 hours up until really just like April. Yeah, because then we'll have to bring it to Assembly. If there's no other questions, if anyone would like to appoint themselves. Yes.
I want to appoint myself, but I have a question. I probably know the answer to this, but like, what happens if you're unable to, number 1, fill the committee? Number 2, like, if this doesn't, what's the process if this doesn't pass through?
Great question. I'll just answer this. So according to our constitution, our membership in external organizations needs to be reviewed comprehensively every 3 years. Our membership in USA the review of our membership in USA has already been delayed 1 year. If this review cannot be completed by April General Assembly, then our membership in USA would have to be terminated because we would have no ability to continue being members. We do have a $3 fee on the AMS fee slate as a mandatory fee every member of the society pays. I think that equates to roughly like 60 or 70,000 in membership fees that's paid out to USA. So it's important to have this review happen from like the integrity of the student fee, and because if it doesn't happen, we quite literally would not be able to continue being members of USA. I hope that answers the question.
Any other questions or comments? Anyone else looking to appoint themselves?
Where's your placard? Okay, Pranav, can we have someone else also nominate themselves? Sorry. It's just in terms of like finishing the report and Josh.
All right. So all those in favor of motion 8, external alignment, that AMS Assembly appoint Josh and Pranav to the Committee on External Alignment. All those in favor, please use your placard. All those opposed, all those who choose to abstain. This motion passes. All right. Motion 9, club restructure, moved by VP Asande, seconded by Secretary Garbidian. It is that AMS Assembly support the club's commission restructure that will be presented to the Board of Directors as presented. Is there any presentation? Are you guys
There's no presentation, but I should probably like be in front of all of you so you can ask all the questions. So you don't have to start asking me. Thank you. Okay, so how many of you have had the chance to take a look at the restructure proposal that was submitted? Some nods, some yes, some no's. Okay, so right now the club's commission has a 40-hour a week club's commissioner, and then it has a 15-hour a week AM, an 8-hour a week communication, 8-hour a week admin deputy, and then 10-hour a week communications assistant. What we're hoping to do is take a look at each specific structure. To get to this structure proposal, Sylvie and I worked really long to, first of all, read the entire proposal and this way I can understand and I can know about us. For them to do it, we also use the policy and policy add. So you could ask why we're coming here with a proposal for AMs and all that. Well, when you have a systematic and what we're seeing a lot of issues now is first of all, the ability to manage the elevation of the wall, the ability to kind of work with that. In the other conditions, the instructors are a little different, and the way they work is assigned and the way they're expected to be done. Here, what we're seeing is that clubs require administrative support in terms of their graph accounts, their finances. We're also seeing that clubs communication support, we're seeing that clubs policy support. And so the instructors proposal takes those three roles and puts all this ownership to the AM role, because right now it's just a system doesn't really do much about direction. Now the role is complete, it does everything is happening. As long as I mentioned, number of and so what we've done there is given the existing assistant commissioner the role and put the other people into active. They actively do. So we have club communications, club narrative, club education and outreach, and club operations and management. Those are the three roles. There's obviously me. Yeah, that's kind of it. Are there any questions? it's not doing that commissioner diversity of that. Very people have not needed to not be on nobody. So if you come to replicate it and hopefully so we help them. We have a new platform so they can see here and share whatever it is. And instead of having to share that, and then they kind of just she would get it as well. And a lot of people they want to understand, but clubs don't seem to understand that she doesn't deal with things unless it's NAM infringements and super high level things that need her attention. With the implementation of the Fresh Desk, what we've done is we've ensured that the changes we're making actually tie into also the new policy that we're implementing, and as well as the new infrastructure that we're implementing as well. With the Fresh Desk help, your email about bank forms will go to your operations and finance manager, not the club's commissioner first. It goes to who it needs to go to. When you fill it out, they can then see, okay, this is something that needs to be escalated, so the club's commissioner can take it on. Again, like Assembly and the VPUA will need to do the job to, first of all, manage the club's commission and ensure that this does happen, and be willing to take steps to put in risk mitigation where it needs to happen. And Assembly, again, will need to hold everyone accountable, including themselves, to ensure that that happens. But, yeah. Any other questions, concerns, inquiries, changes? Sounds like we're all good. Great. This sucks.
Thank you, Ruth. All right, seeing as there are no comment or other comments or questions, we will now be voting on motion 9, club restructure. All those in favor, please raise your placard. All those opposed? All those who choose to abstain? This motion passes. Right, we'll now be moving on to the discussion period. First topic of discussion, commission policies. Secretary Garvidian, do you want to? VP Asande, do you want to come up and speak on this topic?
Guys, I'm back. Okay, first thing is clubs policy. It's really fun being a commissioner too. Like, I miss this good old days. So in terms of the clubs policy, we have been editing this policy now for about 2 to 3 weeks. It's a lot because we are trying to take in what we've received from our clubs, because we did have a feedback session, and we're trying to incorporate that with what is operationally and fiscally responsible for the club's commission. One of the biggest changes that we're looking at making is the ratification timeline, how often it happens, which is what we're going with, which is 2 years. The other change that we're hoping to implement with clubs is the requirement for a club to be eligible for ratification. We know we've brought this topic to Assembly before, and Assembly doesn't seem to see any problem with us continuing to ratify clubs that we don't have the capacity to support. But we've decided that the goal is not to make it quote unquote harder for clubs to come forward, but the goal is to make it a little bit more streamlined in terms of what we expect a club to have before ratification. So an example is right now, clubs are expected to be running for a semester. We'd like to change that to 2 semesters, and specifically we'd like to change that to the winter or the fall, not the summer semester, because most students aren't here. So the quote unquote impact that's needed to be felt in the community cannot actually be measured because most of our students aren't here in the summer. Another thing that we were looking into changing as well is the ability for our clubs to adhere to our policy and what that looks like. So right now, there are a lot of policies that intersect with club policy that clubs often will disregard because they just don't know about it. So it's the education requirements as well. Another component of the policy is that it's alluded to that clubs are supposed to run elections within our policy, but clubs are supposed to run elections as constitutional ways to elect their incoming presidents or whoever it is, or co-chairs, which a lot of clubs admitted to me last time that they did not do. It was really funny because they all came up afterwards telling me about policy infringement after policy infringement. I was like, oh, but for the most part it was fine. And we just kind of wanted to get some feedback because we're bringing the finalized policy updates to assembly in April. And I know a lot of you have been parts of clubs. Some of you have been club co-chairs and co-presidents. What would you have wanted the AMS to have while you were having this experience, and what do you believe we should be incorporating into some of the changes we're making into the policy?
Josh, to be frank, I don't think running elections for clubs, at least the ones that I see at the community level, are viable. We can barely get people to show up for our faculty society elections. Historically, those clubs are just hiring their next co-chair. Pretty much every computing club that I know of hires their next co-chair. I think it would be ideal if our policies at least try to reflect a little bit closer to the reality.
Okay.
And maybe that involves us going to these people and saying, hey, you need to run elections, and making that a very clear thing.
Okay.
But I will say the reality is that they're hiring their chairs, and they're usually doing it from people who are already internal to the organization. They worked a lower role the previous year. That's how I got hired to my position. I guess I'm just giving more of what the club said. That's how it's working, especially with student clubs. None of them are on elections.
Okay.
Hi, Senator Nikki Ansaman. I'm the co-chair of the Iranian Association, and I can say that we have been doing hiring for our senior leadership for the past 2 years since our inception. I can see why an election process can be useful for some clubs, like Model Parliament or the Queen's International Affairs Association, because their models run on a democratic process, which is really important to uphold their clubs. But for more less engaged, low-key clubs like cultural clubs who have who hold socials and kind of just bring the community together, I can see why a hiring process can be more equitable for this, because
Guys, can you shut the door, please?
kind of what the fellow assembly member there said, engagement can be pretty low, and hiring can be a more equitable way for members to express their application. So I would recommend that the policy reflect both hiring and election processes as a equitable and valid way to continue their club's senior leadership.
Okay. Just to provide some context on why we were saying elections, because typically those are supposed to be the most fair way to do it. I recognize that, like, with some clubs, it might be actually easier to just say, like, show us that you did it equitably. Like, I don't know. Because at the end of the day, like, what I'm thinking is from an HR perspective, there is a serious conflict of interest if people are just getting hired into their roles without input from the people they're supposed to serve. But again, maybe I'm thinking too high level, and we need to get down to club level and think a little bit more granular with it. So I've been taking notes on my phone. I'm not being rude. I'm not typing away. I'm literally taking notes on what they're saying. Yes.
Jack Walker, I'm Press.
Hi, Jack.
Just to clarify, how does this affect clubs that are ratified under faculty societies? Like, is this strictly for AMS clubs, or is this also applied to FACSOC clubs?
Good question. I mean, our policy right now, like, acknowledges dually ratified clubs, and they're expected to adhere to both our policy and your own. So, again, really good point. Something that I didn't look into too heavily. I've added it into my notes to look into, like, because I think ComSoc, so Commerce has dually ratified clubs. You guys do. Artside, do you guys have clubs as well, or is it just your DSCs? But we don't operate your DSCs. We don't touch that, do we?
We have like
Okay. Dually ratified clubs as well. Look into policy. Huh? I think they definitely do, yeah.
Just to clarify, so faculty societies do have their own clubs policies or ratification procedures for their own clubs. It is only the clubs policy of the AMS applies for if the club that is ratified by you guys has gone through the process and option to become duly ratified.
Oh, okay.
So it's not that innately your
We wouldn't touch your clubs.
ratified, you actually have to go through that process.
Yes.
If the issue is with the hiring practices, because I agree that I think most clubs on campus do benefit from just the hiring process rather than elections. Can we have like some sort of system where you only look into it if there's a complaint brought up about an unfair hiring practice?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, we have so many clubs, I'm not gonna lie, that, like, unless you're coming to us to say something's wrong, half of the time we don't know something's wrong, right? And so like, unless it's something that's, and when it does come up, like, the due procedures are taken to handle it, but that's something to know.
Yeah, so just to add is every club technically also has the ability to amend their club's constitution as long as it follows the policy to make it so that they have their own hiring provisions if they want to go that route. It just would need to go through, it would mean it requires the proper like provisions that club members have been engaged in making that decision to change. The initial reason why election is kind of the default is because under like the policy,
because the thing is like two things. Right now, if this job is already this way when we don't have to sit on the committees, now imagine when you have to sit on the committees for over 100 clubs. We do not have the time, nor do we have the capacity. That's the first thing. Second thing is, I will be quite frank, we do not want to surveil our clubs. Like, that is never the goal. The AMS as an entity exists to support clubs. The goal is not to police them or take away the fun from running a club. That's never, and I know some people would say, but event sanctioning, that's to provide you insurance and so that you don't get in any legal trouble. Like, realistically speaking, we want you guys to be able to maintain your autonomy. And as a club member, I don't know how comfortable I would feel if I had the AMS on my hiring panel, because what does Ruth know about my club? She's not even on the club. So, yeah. Nina. I can let Sylvie respond to this one. That's a concern that comes up where it's like, you need to ensure that this is fair and due process. And now, that's the difference between equity and equality, right? It's not going to be equal across all of the clubs, but there has to be something done to ensure that there's at least a framework there.
I have a question on behalf of Jana. Actually, within the club or into the public?
Within the club. Yeah, they'd be with. Also, how is she?
She texted me before she left.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna go after.
How many more minutes?
5.
Okay. Wait, but Jana's not able to talk. So. It starts in 5 minutes or 4 minutes approximately, so we have 4 minutes left. Does anyone have any final thoughts about the club's
overhaul because we've changed. I come to you about a restructure, I come to you about policy updates. I just keep coming to you. So do you have anything to say? And if you are not comfortable to say this in front of assembly, my inbox is open. Hit me up, hit my line, and we can sit down and we can chat about it and we can get some conversations going because your feedback is extremely valuable. Gone. Okay, the next policy I don't get to speak to, which is great. Mr. Haggerty Gold.
Okay, I'll keep it super quick because we only have 2 minutes. I've been working on a more comprehensive policy for event sanctioning. Currently, we've had a little bit of confusion about timelines. That's been a big problem this year where people aren't submitting events with enough time for us to properly review them, and as a result we have to reach out and go through a little bit more intense of a risk mitigation process. So the hope with our event sanctioning policy is just to clear up some of the responsibilities of both myself and the Campus Affairs Commission from the event sanctioning side, and then as well as some of the responsibilities and procedures that clubs and other faculty societies, their clubs and committees should be looking at. A lot of it is just establishing clear timelines and what needs to be included. So, for example, if you guys need a COI, on my end, I need a venue contract that has the details of the certificate of insurance there. I don't know. It's pretty simple. It's basically just a more formal version of the event sanctioning guide that we have right now. I'm happy to answer any questions though. Okay.
All right, seeing as there are no more questions, there is one more thing to talk about, but Jana will be speaking on that. And since we are close to iftar time, we will be moving into our 15-minute break, and food will be arriving in 2 minutes. So please break for the next 15 minutes.